Welcome to the next lesson of the HTML. In today's lesson, we will talk about HTML tables. Tables are a good way to represent data in columns and rows format. Tables allow web developers to arrange data in rows and columns. A table tag is used. We use a table tag to define the HTML table. Inside the table tag, each table row is defined with a tr tag, and each table header is defined by the th tag. So we use this th tag to define the headings of the table columns, and each data cell is defined by a td tag. So majorly there are 4 such tags. One is the table tag, then to define each row inside the table it's the tr tag, to define the heading it's th tag, and to define each cell this is the td tag. By default, the text in the th element are bold and centered. So we use this th tag to define the heading. And by default, the text in the td that are regular and left aligned. We can change this alignment inside the td cell. So let us see how we can create the table. So this is the table tag. Let me remove this style first. So this is the table tag, and using the table tag, inside this table we can create separate rows. So you can see this is one row. The opening tag indicates the beginning of the row, and this closing tag will indicate the end of the row. So everything inside this is one row. So you can see this is one row, and similarly we can create second row, and then we can create the third row. So we have created third row. We can create more rows in the same fashion. Now in each row, let's say this is the first row, we have 3 cells. So this is cell number 1, cell number 2, and cell number 3, and we have created these 3 cells as heading cells. So we have used th tag. Inside the opening and closing th tag we used to write the heading. So this is the first cell heading, this is the second cell heading, and this is the third heading. Now from the second row we have used table data cells to indicate the value. So this is the first cell in the second row, this is the second cell, and this is the third cell in the second row. Similarly, we can create cells into the third row as well. Let me compile this and show you the output. Let me show you how this actually is looking. Let me copy this code. Let me open a notepad and create a new file. I am opening it with the HTML, and then directly I am jumping it inside the body tag. I am skipping here that head tag. So this is the, and now inside this body I'll be using the table tag. So I have opened the table tag. Inside that I have created this first row. Inside first row I have 3 cells. Second row, inside second row I have 3 cells, and inside third row I also have 3 cells. So let me store this file. Let me save this file with the, let me store this file with the, let's say, table example.html. So once I'll save this file, I'll go to the position and I'll open this saved file. So you can see this is the table example coming as the output, but we can see we are not having the borders of the table, but we can see that this is the first row, and then this is the first row. We have headings into the first row, this is the second row, and this is the third row. In each row we have 3 cells, and we can see we are not seeing the border of the table. So we can add the border of the table with the help of the border attribute that we use with the, that is border, and we can supply, let's say, 2. So I'll save, I'll go back, I'll refresh, and now we can see we have the border. We can change the size of the border also, the thickness of the border, just by changing this value of the border. You can see we have much more thicker border, and if you want to have a thin border, we can reduce this back to some lower values, right? So let me have a little bit thicker border, let's say 3. So this is the border, right? So this is how we can create the table TR and TDs. Let me see what other attributes are available. We can use the width attribute, BG color attribute, and all the other attributes with the table, with the TH as well, and with the TD as well. So let me supply, let me add for this particular TH. Let's say I want this TH, the BG color of this TH to be yellow. So I have added yellow. So now you can see the background color of this first cell. So this was the first row and first cell. So we have got BG color as yellow. So the other attributes that we can use with the table are cell padding and cell spacing. So let me use this cell padding and cell spacing with the table tag. So let me use with the table tag, let's say if I use cell padding and I specify cell padding to be 4. So what is the cell padding? Cell padding is basically the space between the borders of the cell and the text. This is cell padding. So now I'm going to refresh this, and you can see the space between the text and the borders of the cell increased. I can increase it more just by changing the value here. So you can see, right? So this is the purpose of the cell padding. So let me add cell spacing, and I specify this to be 4. So now I'll click on save. I'll go back and press. So you can see the space between two cells increased a lot. So I can change this value from 4 to a lesser value, let's say 1, and you observe the difference. If I click on reference, you can see the space between or among the cells reduced. So we can change the cell padding as well as we can change the cell spacing. In the same way, we can change the color of any of the cell by help of the BG color. We can use the padding, we can use the spacing, we can also align the text. Let's say if I want to align the text here, this is left aligned, I want this to be center aligned. So let me go and add the style tag and specify text align property, and I want this to be center. Just by using this style tag, just see we have used this into the second row's first column. So I'll save this, I'll go back, click on refresh. Now you can see this text is centrally aligned. This can be done with any of the cell. You can make the changes. So this is the purpose of the align tag. You can use with the table. We can also apply border color, we can also apply border spacing. Similarly with the style tag, let's say if I want to change the border color of this cell, so I'll go to the second row, I'll go to the second cell, and I'll supply the style tag. Style is equal to, let's say, border color, and I want this border color to be, let's say, red. So I'll save, I'll come back, I'll refresh, and you can see the border color of this particular cell is red. This can be applied to the whole table or all of the cells with the help of the similar styling rule. So this is the border color that we can supply. We can also change the border thickness as well. We can change the border size of each cell or for the whole table as well. So we have seen the BG color. We can also add the background, and if you want to set the background of any cell, let's say if I want to set the background of this 94, that background I want to add some image. So I'll go to the text. Let's say I went to the third row, the last cell. So I'll use here, I'll use the background property and I'll specify the name of the image. So let me see which image I have into the same folder. I have tl.png. So I am adding tl.png that I have kept into the same folder where my file is. So now I'll go back, I'll click on refresh, and you can see the background image is added. But just because the background image is black and the text is also black, the text is not visible here. I can convert the text color from black to anything else here in this particular cell as well. So this is the background. We can add the background to cell, or we can also add the background to the whole table as well. So just to add the background to whole table, we need to supply this background tag inside the table tag. So once I'll supply this background tag inside the table tag, this background will be applied to the whole table. You can see this is applied to the whole table. So let me remove this background from here, refresh, and check whether everything goes back. Right, this is all. So that is the background we can use with the table. Now let's say we can specify the height and width of the table as well. We can specify the height and width of the each cell as well. Let me specify the width here of the table, and I specify width to be, let's say, 80%. So I'll specify width to be 80%, and if I specify height to be 500. So if I specify the width and height of the table, so let me show you what will happen if I have this the original size. So now if I refresh, you can see this is changed. So the width increased and as well the height increased of the table. So you can see that this is the width and the height, and you can also say that this is still responsive. I can check the responsiveness of this particular page by just squeezing it to the mobile size. So you can see this is still responsive. So we can also change the width and height of the table, as well as we can change the width and height of any cell. So what is the next important attribute, or which is the next attribute that we can use with the table? We can use the table caption, which will give the caption to a table, that will give a better explanation to the table. We can add table header, as well as we can take convert it into the border, and we can add the table footer with the tags t head, t body, and t foot. T head is used to add the header, t body is used to separate the table body, and t foot is used to get the footer of the table. We can also use this. Now let me say we can nest the table inside one table. We can add the other table as well. Now let's talk about this call span attribute. Let's say if I want to merge these two cells together, so we will be merging in the column. So what we need to do is we have to specify the call span attribute. So I want to span this cell to these two cells. So what I have to do is I have to go to row 1, column 1, and then I'll have to specify call span. So let me show you. If I went here, so I'll go to the row number 1. This is row number 1, and this is the cell number 1. Inside the cell number 1, I'll specify call span is equal to 2. So this will span for 2 cells. And let me go back, I'll refresh. You can see this is a span for 2 cells, but this is an extra cell all occupied here, so we need to remove this extra cell. So let me remove one cell from this row, because I have already spanned this for 2 cells. So let me remove this one cell. So now we have 2 cells here, one spanned to 2 cells, and this is the third one. So this is the purpose of the call span. Now you can see this is a spanned. Similarly, if you want to span the row, let's say if I want to span this row, so I'll go to this cell in 2 rows. Let's say I want to span this cell in 2 rows. So I'll go to row number 2 and cell number 3. So I'll go to row number 2. Let me go to row number 2. So this is row number 1, this is row number 2, and I need to go to the cell number 3. Here I'll use row span, and I want to span it for 2 rows. So I'll save it, I'll come back, I'll refresh, and you can see the cell spanned. Again, this extra cell we need to remove, and this extra cell into this third row. So I need to go to the third row. So this is the third row, and I'll remove this extra cell from here. So this will adjust my table. So now you can see this row is spanned for, this cell is spanned for 2 rows. So this is the purpose of the col span and row span we can use into our table. So this is how we can use the col span and row span table. So I hope you have understood the main attributes that we can use with the table. We can use th, tr, td, col span, row span, cell spacing, cell padding, width, height, and all these are some important attributes. So that's it for the today's lecture. Feel free to comment into the comment box if you have any questions. I'll definitely answer your questions, and till then, stay safe, stay healthy, and meet you into the next lesson. Thank you so much.